Like today I will be talking about the UTXO transaction model of blockchains. So basically, yeah, these are the agenda. So I'll walk you through what is blockchain. It's just a one side slide so that we can have a quick recall of how the blockchain works. Then we will talk about the types of transactions model, account and UTXO, specifically UTXO model. We'll try to understand the UTXO model with our first transaction example. Then we'll see, and basically what we are going to do, we are going to design that UTXO data structure on our own, or we'll try to design it, and then we'll compare it with the actual Bitcoin transaction, like uh, where we are, and then we'll see the what are the Bitcoin scripts are there. So there are two types of scripts: locking and unlocking scripts. We'll talk about it, and then we'll see how we can execute those scripts. So what is blockchain? So there is a guy who forms the transaction. He wants to send some money to B. He will initiate the transaction with the digital wallet in his laptop, and then the transaction goes inside the unconfirmed pool of transaction. From there, the miner will pick up and form a block, and then the block gets broadcasted across the network, and the network will validate it, and consensus will reach, and block gets added. So yeah, this is what the blockchain is. What we are concerned about is this transaction model. So if you divide the whole blockchain, there could be like many modules on which we can study or we can work. So this is just the one of the module. Okay, there could be like multiple models. One is you can just study about the transaction. Then other is you can study about the consensus. Other is you can study about the distributed database. So like there could be many different topics inside the blockchain. So what we are focusing today is the transaction models. How you are that could be the first step. Let's see how many types of transaction models are there. So one is called the account based model, and the analogy to the account based model is simply the bank account that we have. Like you will have a account ID and a balance associated with it. Ethereum, Stellar, these are the blockchains that are using this account based model. So it's like, then there is other model called unspent transaction output, UTXO model. So basically, there are blockchains. Some blockchains had adopted one model, other blockchains have adopted the other model. Now, which model is better, and what is the advantage, disadvantage? That's a different story. And they have some advantage on top of other, but there is nothing like this is better and this is not good. So it depends on your use case. So what we are looking here in this presentation today is we want to understand what is transaction model, and we should be able to get the clear picture of how it is different from account model. So analogy to the UTXO model could be the paper bills. So let's say if I right now you are sitting there, and if I ask you like what is the balance in your what is the balance you have right now? So what you will do, you will just take out your wallet and count all the notes inside the wallet, and then you will add them up, and then you will tell me, okay, I have like 2,000 rupees. So you have 500 rupees note that sum ups to the 2,000 rupees, right? So this every you can imagine that every 500 rupees note is the UTXO. And why we are calling it as a UTXO? Because it is unspent. Right now it is there in your wallet, which means that it is unspent. You haven't spent it, right? That's why they are calling it as a UTXO. So if I ask you how many UTXO you have right now, you will say that okay, I have 4 UTXO as of now. Whatever be the value, like it can have 500 value, it can have 100 value, 10 rupees, 2 rupees, whatever. But then you will say that okay, I have 4 UTXO right now in my wallet. But in case of account model, there is a the balance variable is directly associated with the account. like uh, like you have an ID, and then there is a variable called balance, which is associated with that particular ID. That's how it is being maintained in the bank accounts, right? Like every account will have a variable called balance. So what all the blockchains that are using UTXO? Bitcoin, Qterm, Gcash, etc. Of course, we want to focus on the UTXO. We want to understand how its data structure looks like. So with our first transaction example that I'm going to talk next, we will try to build the data structure of it. I mean, we'll try to think about the data structure, what could be the data structure. And then once we have the data structure built, we'll try to compare it with the actual Bitcoin's, data structure or object structure, and we'll see where we have reached. That's what our objective. So let's see our first transaction example. So there is a guy. He went to Marina and he met Akka. So she was selling fish, and because he is showing his finger like this, which means he wants 1 kg of, I don't know what fish is whatever. So Akka told him that, okay, this fish is going to cost you, a kg of fish is going to cost you 600 bucks. So let's see how many. I mean, let's see the status of his wallet as well. So he have two 500 rupees note as of now. When the parallelly look into the business wallet. So right now he has just two bills, two 500 rupees note. I can also say that, okay, he has two UTXO right now in his wallet. So how this transaction will happen? So simple, right? He will give 1,000 rupees to Akka, and Akka will return 400 bucks. So once this transaction happened, then these two bills will not be there, right, in his wallet. Instead of that, the wallet would look like this. And I think this is very simple to understand, right? We do it every day. So in the whole transaction, can I say like this? Okay, in this transaction, some set of UTXO are consumed in order to produce other set of UTXOs. So like two 500 bills got consumed in order to produce 400 rupees note. So at state 0, the wallet was looking like this, and at state 1, it looks like this. So now we know like what is the status. I mean, how a transaction looks like. So now let us try to uh, uh, let us try to think like how I can code this thing basically. So I want to uh, develop a data structure for this particular transaction. What I will do, I can write it like this, right? The first transaction will have some input, and then we'll have some outputs. Now the inputs would be, so set of inputs which are consumed, and then set of outputs which are being produced. Now notice the word previous here in this transaction, in this inputs. So those inputs which he has got from some previous transaction, right? So somebody would have given him the 500 rupees note. So that those two bills he must have got from some other transaction which would have happened in the past. And the new notes, like the 400 and the 600 for Akka, that is going to produce is for the future transaction which he is going to make. Correct? So this is the simplest, simplest object structure I can think of for this fish transaction. Now let us try to expand it. Let us try to think more on it. Can I write like this? So inputs is now two bills, 500, 500. So now there are two objects in. I can think the input as an array, right? Because there could be like multiple, objects. So output of value 500 and output of value 500 because there were two bills. And the output, I can write it like this. So output for value 600 for Akka and output of value 400 for Vijay. Now we have this data structure ready. Till here, I think things are clear, right? Cool. So now I have this data structure. Now let us think more on it. What else we can do with it? So let us think about one of the structure. So what it is written, output of value 500 from the previous transaction. So when I say previous transaction, then I have to tell which previous transaction, right? Which means that I have to specify the transaction ID of the previous transaction. When I am saying 500, 500 output of value 500 from the previous transaction, and we know that a transaction in a transaction, the inputs looks is an array. So we have to specify which output index I'm talking about. There could be multiple outputs uh, in that transaction, right? But which one I am talking about? For that, I need to specify the index of it, and then because I'm saying that because Vijay is trying to spend this money, so he has to provide the proof for it also. So that's why he has to keep the signature. So similarly for every other output, I mean every other object. Again, I'm just repeating it. Like when I'm saying previous transaction, so I have to specify which previous transaction I'm talking about. Then because I know that in any transaction, this looks like an array. This is an array, so we have to specify of this array which index I'm talking about. Because in this array there could be multiple objects like this, right? So I have to specify like which index I'm talking. So that I have given. Now the third object could be the third property could be rather that since Vijay is trying to spend this money, so he have to give the proof of it. So that will be basically a digital signature. So he will sign the transaction with his private key, and then he will provide the digital signature here. So the proof that this output belongs to Vijay, that has to be there. Now let us look at the output of it. Let us try to design the output. So I'm saying that output of value 600 for Akka. So first property I can think of is amount, definitely because the amount is there. But then see the Akka has to spend this output, right? So there has to be a way which says that only Akka should be able to spend. See, we all know that all the transactions are deciding on the public blockchain, so everybody is able to see that thing. So, but not everybody should be able to spend that this 600, right? Only the Akka should be able to spend the 600. So as of now, I'm just calling it as a script. I mean, whatever property name I can give, right? So I'm just calling it as a script. So that is this property says that only Akka should be able to spend. Similarly, for the other output, like the amount of 400, only Vijay should be able to spend. So finally, let's see how our fish transaction looks like. So we have input, we have output. In the input, we provided the previous transaction ID and provided the input output index. And then the Vijay also given his signature. Similarly, for the other 500 rupees also. And then for outputs, there could be two outputs, one output for Akka and other output for Vijay. So it will have the two properties. One property is what is the amount is trying to send, and the other property is the script, so that only Akka should be able to spend. Don't worry about what this script says. We'll talk about it in the next section. I'm just writing it like this, but this basically says that okay, only Akka should be able to spend. If somebody else try to spend, that transaction will fail. Now this is your fish transaction. We have started from that model, and then we have built this transaction object. Now let us see how actual Bitcoin transaction looks like. Then we will be understanding that okay, we have done it properly or not. See, there is no difference between our FIS transaction and the Bitcoin transaction. Only the names are different. So here they are calling it as a V in and V out. V in because this is the input, and V out because this is going to be this is going to be the output. And of course there are some other parameters, but then the basic structure is what we have already designed, right? So till here, do you have any question?
No issues.
Okay, thank you. So, so now the next thing what we have to figure out, like the only mystery in this particular transaction is this script that we have to talk about, right? So what all this script and why I'm calling it as a script SIG and this one as a script PUBKey. Why not the same name itself? The script SIG is because this is a signature of the spender, and why this is script PUBKey that I will come to it later. So basically, there are two scripts in the Bitcoin transaction. One is called script SIG, another is called script PUBKey. Script SIG is basically the inputs or signature of the person, and the script PUBKey is basically, I mean, says that okay, it's a script which says that okay, this public key should be able to only spend this value. So the script SIG is also called unlocking script, and script PUBKey is also called locking script. Now we have to understand why it is called unlocking script and why it is calling it as a locking script. This is interesting. So 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 let us think about this one first. So I'm saying that only Akka should be able to spend, right? Which means that you are locking the 600 rupees to a particular public key, right? You're locking this particular value to this particular public key. Similarly, you are locking the 400 rupees to Vijay's public key. So that's why it is called locking script, because nobody else should able to spend. And why this is called unlocking script? Because you provide the signature to unlock some similar script like this, which belongs to Vijay in the previous in the transaction, which is whose ID is this. And they both are called Bitcoin script basically. So these are some of the jargons. Bitcoin script is a list of instructions recorded with each transaction. Describes how the next person is wanting to spend the money, and they are stack based. We'll come to it in a bit. And process from left to right. They are non-Turing complete because you cannot have loops in that script. And yeah, there are two things. So now next thing we have to think about is locking and unlocking script. So to verify a transaction, we need both of this script. So let's say Vijay is trying to spend a money. Okay. So what Vijay was giving the unlocking script, which means that he is putting the signature, but then he's also giving the reference to the locking script. What was the reference? The reference was the transaction ID and the output index. This one. So he was giving the unlocking script, and also he was giving the reference to some locking script, something like this, something similar to this. So there would be some other transaction ID. I'm sorry that these two transaction IDs similar. I mean, so what I was talking, like when he was spending the money, he was providing the unlocking script, which means the signature, and also the reference to the locking script. So he is providing this reference, like go to this transaction ID and find this output, and there you will get the unlocking script. Something would look like this, something similar to this, right? So that's why I written to verify a transaction, so that So when you provide this locking and unlocking screen, why are you providing? Because when the miners picks up the transactions, they will verify these transactions whether it's a valid or not, whether Vijay has provided the correct key or not, right? So he is going to need both of the scripts. So, but what he will do with the both of the script, that we'll talk about it in a bit. But then he is going to need both of them. So it's again a quick recap. Like in our first transaction example, the outputs of the value 500 from the previous transaction, which belongs to Vijay, and I designed this thing and I rewritten this thing in this way. Like what is the previous transaction? For that I've added a property called transaction ID. What is the output index I'm talking about? And what is the guarantee that it belongs to Vijay? That's the signature. Similarly, now I can when Vijay is giving the signature, he also has to provide the public key with the signature, right? So then only he will say that okay, this signature belongs to me. So the whole script sig consists of two part. One is signature, his digital signature, and his public. But which output I'm talking about? So there must be some other output where he must have got some 500 rupees from someone, right? Now this output I can write it as in the form of this, like amount and script, and which is again I can write it like this. This is just a recap of the previous thing. Now to verify a transaction, you need both of them. You need means the miner will need, right? The miner is going to verify this transaction. But of course, the next question is how. So basically, what happens that you will have a locking unlocking script. That means your signature plus public key, and you will have the locking script, which means the whole script that gets executed on the stack machine. Will see it in a bit, and the end result will be true or false, whether this script is correct or not. I mean, whether this transaction is correct or not. That is going to be the output. So based on that, the miner will decide whether to add this transaction in a block or not. Okay, so so basically, this miner is trying to form a block, right? So in a block, what all transaction has to be taken, that has to be decided. So for that, he will do go through all this process of validation of the transaction, and once the transaction get validated, he adds them in a block. That's the bigger picture. So I mean that's the process. So let us see how this how the locking and unlocking script gets executed on a stack machine. So, like I said, the input is signature and public key, and the output is some script like this. Okay? And you have a so what you do, you combine them, and then you have a stack over here. And what you do, you start executing the whole script. So let's see whether I'm able to verify this transaction or not. So first the execution pointer here, so it gets pushed into the stack. The next thing also gets pushed into the stack. The next is dupe. So what dupe instruction does? Dupe instruction takes the first, takes the first element from the stack and duplicate it, and then push back that element. So it duplicated the first element. Then the next is hash. So hash will take the first element and generate the hash of it, whatever be the algorithm. But yeah, that's what it does. So it took the first element, topmost element, and generates the hash and push it back to the stack. And then the next is the pub key hash that also get pushed. So before going forward, I want to ask you a question. Can you tell me whose public key is there here? I mean, we are talking about the Vijay's transaction, right? So, but whose public key is here?
Public key of the guy who owns the UTXO?
Yes. So basically, when Vijay was trying to spend this money, he has to give unlocking and locking script. So unlocking script he has given by giving the signature and public key, and the locking script, for locking script he has given the transaction ID and output index. So the miners looks for that transaction ID and output index and take out the whole unlocking locking scripts, which says that 500 rupees note only Vijay should be able to spend. Right now? So his public key is there. So 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 okay, the hash of the hash of the public is basically, it's not actual public key. The hash of the public is there. So that also gets pushed in. So after that, this what equal verify does. Equal verify takes the the top and the second top most element and tries to check whether they are equal or not. If they are equal, it pops out. So it gets popped out, and then at last the check signature will check the public key signature with the, I mean, the public key is correct for this signature or not. If it is correct, it will say true or false, and then I mean that's the result.
Can you go back a couple of slides?
Sure.
Go back one more. Okay, got it. Yeah.
And yeah, that's how the scripts gets executed, and miner will come to know that okay, what is, if it's true or false, I mean if the transaction is correct or not. So questions?